Okay, welcome back. We're getting back into the VTM 60. This is VTM 60 number 1 of 2 at this point, since I've acquired a second one since we did that first evaluation video. Going to start by redoing the power board over here, and then we will work our way through, maybe get to the capacitors on the main board, and just keep seeing how far we can get at this point. This might not be all done in one video, but it's going to take some time to get this off, so it could end up being 3 or 4 videos just because of that. But yeah, I think we got all the parts, so going to just dive in, see what we can get done. Looks like something came loose there at some point, so yeah, we got some work to do. One of our wires off the power transformer, or output transformer rather. Where does that go? Oh, we'll figure it out. Oh, it probably goes to one of these guys. Anyways, couple announcements. Got a free tier of a Patreon, Technology Enterprises over there. Everything is free for now. There will be paid tiers later on with even more stuff, but for now, notes on repairs, links to parts that were used in case you're doing a similar repair, snippets of schematics with highlighting on what was changed or what was done. If you're enjoying the channel, check that out. Also, in October, we'll be moving into a new workspace, and we'll be potentially documenting my setup of a bench and test equipment and how all that works when you're doing it from scratch. Okay, so gonna just go ahead and pull this board out, and we will get to work. And let's see, we got one more connector here. And we'll get these guys. We'll want to check the fuses as well while we're doing this. This is going to be a fun amp to have back up and running. I honestly think that I probably, at some point, will sell my JCM 800 and just use one of these. Oh, missing one more screw. Okay. Is it worth desoldering these couple wires to get this board all the way out? Maybe, maybe not. I know it is worth getting something under here to make sure this is secured. Okay. Classic move, using hot glue. Man, why do people do that? Here, let's check these fuses first off. All good. I will check the values on those though before we get fired up. Yeah, good times. Let's just go ahead and desolder these capacitors from this board. Same as on the 5150. If you watched that, it's going to take a little bit of wiggling for getting the adhesive off there. The caps, hopefully, will just come right out. with these kind of circuit boards, you do want to be a little careful to not apply too much heat. Just because you don't want to end up damaging or lifting a trace. Which makes it extra fun when someone hot glued the legs in place. Okay. Got a fly in the shop. That's no good. All right, first guy out. And now I believe someone can correct me if I'm wrong. People out there might know better than I do, but I believe this blue series of IC cap like this are actually the better ones. These are not the dreaded Fender failed IC caps that were in so many amps. So these aren't necessarily bad caps. I honestly don't know enough about the different series of IC caps to know which are good. I know those gray ones in the Fender reissues are part of... Ooh, that was a little hot. Part of the bad ones. So I always try to replace those when I can. But yeah, if you happen to know anything about the IC series, or Illinois capacitor, I should say, as a brand, or where there's good resource for finding out about that, please let me know. Because I know they sell some through, even through my distributors, which I would assume were reliable. Let's go ahead and just pull the solder on these. But I've had such good luck with F&T caps and the Vichet caps that are don't cost an arm and a leg at this point. It hasn't been worth diving into it too deeply. And seems to be worth the extra couple bucks when it comes up to get those over an IC cap. I know that's not necessarily in everyone's budget though, so I'd like to be better informed on that so I can make a good recommendation when it does come up. The one thing I have seen that's kind of funny is someone around here has been doing amp work and putting like super high quality radio style capacitors into amps, but then also like doing wacky stuff. Like I know there's an argument for this, but only changing out like one of the filter caps. I just don't see the value in that for someone that's not really on a tight budget. or like needing to get by for a show and you don't have all of the parts. And again, I know that's partially opinion based, but it is, I chalk it up to being similar to driving an all-wheel drive car and changing your tires. You are putting more strain, even if one of the tires goes bad and you replace just that tire. Sure, you can get away with it for a little bit, but you're putting more strain and wear and tear on those other tires by doing that. So, and with the parts cost being, you know, basically the smaller proportion compared to the labor cost a lot of the time, while I'm in there, you may as well have me just get things solid, unless you really like dropping off amps for me to work on. Or again, unless it's a matter of, I need this amp running, budget is tight. But the amount of labor it takes to pull all the caps, test them for ESR, and evaluate, I could have recapped your amp. So, what are we doing? Okay, and this one's going to be fun because it's hot glued to the other guy. But again, I come from an industry of electronics where sometimes you get one shot at a test or at a repair. And it makes much, much more sense to spend a little more time and get it right the first time. And I've kind of carried that mentality over to my music. And playing shows. Here, we're going to do the thing here. When leads are wrapped around too much and they're still kind of hanging on, that tends to be when I clip. Because again, the circuit boards are relatively fragile. Not as bad as some others, but not as good as others as well. We really don't want to tear one of these traces up. But now we can grab with the pliers and either work it loose or desolder and push through. Looks like there's one more here under that mess. These kind of things, these like giant globs of adhesives that aren't really doing anything. Like, that's not... Yeah, these are done by people that do not expect to see this amp ever again. Which I am tempted to look up Mr. Jackson here and ask why. Because it doesn't really make much sense. Like putting, I mean, if you want to secure the caps, put a little dab on the cap itself, but to put it on the legs? Are you trying to insulate? Okay, now I'm just complaining, so I'm going to stop. That's... Okay. How do we want to do this? Want to make sure I don't... I can almost understand why they did this as a sort of strain relief. But still don't like it. And see if we can get through some of the mass that way. Okay. Here's one part of the chunk. Okay, and our wires are free. This is they've heat shrinked a limiting resistor in there, which is for the adjustable bias, which, you know, that's good. Halfway wondering if I should just put that back to stock, but I think I'll leave it in. On this amp more than the 5150, having a bias adjustment will be beneficial for my purposes. So let's leave it in. Let's see. Attack this from this way. Oh, and we're hitting that leg. And we've dropped our X-Acto blade. Okay, that's pretty good. Okay. Let's see. Do we want to change these resistors? Did I order metal oxide 220K resistors? Okay, just measuring these guys, make sure none are failed. It's interesting, these guys are reading 160. 215. Well, whatever. I guess while we're here, we will double check. I don't suspect there's anything wrong here with our rectifier, and there is not. Oh, and our bias circuit, may as well. Okay, I'm just going full on in here. Okay, and got a couple 1Ks. This is our bias limiting resistor. What did they put in there? Maybe a 10K? 2.7. That's kind of low. All right, let's see what I've got for parts, because I ordered a bunch for this. Okay, so it looks like I don't have... I somehow only ordered 5 220K metal oxide resistors. However, I do have these 2 watt 220K resistors that are Vichy, and they are coated in a flame-proof coating. These are metal film resistors instead of metal oxide. I'm going to go ahead and throw these in here for now. I don't know why these 4 are measuring 160. I'm going to pull the leg on one of them and see. These should just be in parallel with the capacitors. But with the capacitors removed, they should just be doing their own thing. This is our 3, 4, 6, and 7, which each is in parallel with a filter cap. So yeah, let's go ahead and pull a leg on one of them though and see what's going on. It's strange to me that those are reading the way they are. Yeah, probably easiest to just go ahead and grab this guy. Okay, let's see if there is something else on the board that was affecting that. Yeah, 215. So these are totally fine. And this guy's now reading 214. Oh, that's interesting. I wonder if with the caps pulled, these pairs are in parallel, because they all are reading correct now with this one leg pulled. So I'm actually just going to leave these original resistors in place. I think they're fine for now. I probably will eventually replace these with metal oxide, but I'll order another, let's see, I'll need 6, I'll need 12 total for both amps. And I've got 5, so that's a start. But yeah. I like having the metal oxide resistors are great for power supplies because they stay nice and stable under temperature changes. But also, if they do catastrophically fail, they kind of just flame out. They don't catch on fire, which heat is a necessary component of tube amps. Fire is not. In fact, some might even say fire is bad for tube amps. Okay. We'll check this out. Nope, we still need to pull that pin, that's right. Knew there was something else in here. one last capacitor leg in here. Oh. I think one thing I'll do on my new bench setup is not have my camera set up directly at forehead level so that I don't bump my noggin on the camera and create a simulated earthquake anymore. Okay. So we should be good to start populating. Now, you maybe have noticed there's a pile of capacitors over here at this point. These are what we have that's going in. So let's see, C1, 2, 3, and 4 are all going to be 100 microfarad 350 volt, which we have these F&Ts for. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we've got C8, which is 1000 microfarad at 50 volts. I believe that's this Vichet cap. Yep, 63 volts, but will do. And then these last two, C7 and C6, are going to be 220 microfarad at 80 volts. And we have 220 microfarad at 100 volt. Perfect. Okay, and positives all the way down the line on this side. So let's go ahead and get these in. And I'm going to place them all, I think, and then do the soldering. And this will be nice and set up for adding some silicone. Always mix up silicon and silicone. That guy should fit nice and easy right there. Oh man, this board's gonna look nice with some F&Ts, some new caps in there. Okay. Let's get this going. Get some parts out of the way. And we are still using the, what is this, Permatex. Seems like good stuff so far. Hasn't melted any circuit boards. And just a little dab. Really don't need much. Look at that. Wonderful. We'll go ahead and bend some legs over. Give some mechanical relief. And let's just put all the big guys in, and then we'll solder. You can see with this much weight on there, these things will really get vibrating at some heavy metal frequencies. Which is why we add the silicone. We don't want these to be supported only by their solder joints or their legs. They're prone to failure at the junction of the leg and the capacitor itself. But then also, you can easily end up with a cracked solder joint just from the vibration of the amp, especially if you're playing real loud music, which, and this will be great. We can maybe even put a little dab in there. We'll see how well supported these are. Don't want to overdo it. You can see I'm just bending this over in the plane of the trace so we don't short anything out. Still leaving ourselves some room to clip. If we wanted to be really fancy, we would clip those legs before doing the soldering so that the clipping did not add any strain to the solder joints. but we are soldering in a garage, not a NASA workspace. However, if you are ever sending an amp into space, follow proper soldering standards. And go ahead and clip your leads before soldering. I don't know when you would do that. For some reason that reminded me of the song Space Truckin' by Deep Purple. Okay, all good there. And with the amount of real estate these are taking up, it is looking like I'm just going to leave these 220Ks in there. So I will order some metal oxides for the other VTM. I'm going to try to get those 2 amps, this and the other one, basically identical in terms of stockness, at least at first, with the intention, and I know people like to mod these amps a lot, but my intention there is this one has been modded with a choke, which means instead of the big resistor on the, which I believe goes right here on the stock circuit, let's see, let me double check the board. Yeah, so right here where these 2 wires are, there normally is a 400 ohm 10 watt resistor, one of those big white concrete style ones. And what that does is it goes, you have 2 of these big filter caps right off the power supply, right off the rectification from AC to DC. The first thing you would have is some filtering from a capacitor. So a capacitor to ground. And then you would have that resistor to act as a low-pass filter in conjunction with another capacitor to ground. So you have what's called a pi network, 2 capacitors going to ground and then a resistor in between them. So that's a RC network because there's resistors and capacitors. Now, if we take that resistor out and put a inductor there, you have a arguably more effective filtering circuit, an LC circuit. The inductor in series is again going to act as a low-pass filter, but it is going to do so in a way that reacts differently. Some people like that a lot. Some people do not. You can change the character. So what that effectively does when you change what we would call the stiffness of the power supply. This again kind of comes into the solid state versus tube rectifier territory. But what happens in those situations when you change that dynamic is you change how quickly the energy available to the tubes in the amp reacts. So when you have more voltage at the plates of the tubes, you have more headroom. There's more available there to take from. If you lower that voltage, your signal clips earlier because there's less available voltage to tap into. It's kind of like usually with electricity, water is a really good analogy. So if you think about, like, if you have a very small water tank in your house, which would be like having lower plate voltage, and you turn on the shower and somebody else turns on a shower and somebody else flushes a toilet, you may feel a drop in that water pressure. The same way that you would get distortion earlier on your tubes, or at a lower signal. Whereas if you have a really big hot water tank where people turning on 2 showers and then flushing the toilet doesn't cause the reservoir, right? Which is why these were in the old days called reservoir capacitors. Doesn't cause that to drop proportionately as much. You're not going to feel it the same way. So having the choke in there changes that dynamic, changing your filtering, or changing from a solid state rectifier is going to be stiffer, it's going to react faster, whereas a tube rectifier is going to react slower. It's going to refill that reservoir of voltage that's available at your plates for your tubes, which is where basically you're sourcing electrons from in what we would call conventional flow method of electron flow, or of current flow, I should say. You're going to change that dynamic. Now, so if you're playing like speed metal, you may want a solid state rectifier. You may want a stiffer power supply. If you're playing blues, where you want to hear that bloom of notes, for lack of a better term, you may want tube rectifier, or something else going on there. So long story short, I'm trying to only blab about stuff while I'm actually working and getting stuff done here, so that, you know, it's complementing the work instead of replacing it. But long story short, where was I going? Okay. Long story short, what we're going to end up with here by the time I'm done with this project is a fully refurbished VTM 60 that has a choke, and a fully refurbished, very similar VTM 60 that has no choke. It has the stock resistor. And what that means is we're going to be able to do sound tests one against the other, which I think is going to be very cool. And if that's something you guys are interested in, let me know if you have opinions about how that's performed. I'll probably put a loop on a looper pedal so we know the plane is identical, and record into the same cabinet and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, let me know what you guys think of that. I'm happy to perform sound tests for any of these circuits in any ways that people like. I don't know if people prefer totally silent, or I should say demos with no talking versus ones explaining the circuits as we're going along. I've tried to keep things, you can see that trace is starting to lift there. Yeah, I think it's okay still, but might throw a little super glue under that guy or something. Now this is going to be funny. I wonder if that's why they put that other cap in there, is to accommodate for that. Let's see. I may want to tempted to move those wires. Let's see, these caps are the 220s. I wonder if these caps are slightly too big for this arrangement, or if those wires are how this was done stock. So I think there's room to hang that guy off the board a little bit. this will be a little funny. I think what I'll do is instead of putting the silicone against the board, I'll put it between the caps for these couples so that we're not dumping a bunch of silicone all over this part of the circuit. That's a little bit imperfect. That's not what I would like to do. If this was a customer amp, I would probably rework how this bias circuit connection is set up. But given that this is my own amp, and if I one day decide I don't like this, I can just go back and redo it. Yeah, because even then, that's... I don't like how close this resistor connection is to that capacitor leg. It's interesting. I wonder if the stock capacitors were much smaller. Well, this will be okay. We can make this work. And again, we can make this work for my needs. If this was your amp, I would put a little more thought into this. When it's my amp, it can be a little bit more of an experiment. Oh, do we need to clean that solder joint out? Yes, we do. Yes, okay. And with the fall coming around too, we will be getting back into a more consistent upload schedule. Things dropped off pretty drastically right around Memorial Day. It was actually like overnight on Memorial Day. Seemed like no one, or I shouldn't say no one, but about half the number of people that had been watching the channel were still watching the channel, and kept up the pace for about a month and a half after that, before kind of thinking, well, if everybody else is taking some time off over the summer, I may as well take a little time to myself as well. But, and not only that, I was not getting hardly any amp repairs coming in. And it seems like as soon as we got a couple weeks into September here, all of a sudden, everybody needs their amp worked on. So, kind of great timing to be getting in a new shop. Although I suspect it will be kind of funny because there's a lot of repairs to do. And it will take some time to get that bench set up at the new space. So, I probably will still need to do some repairs here. Okay, here's what we're going to do is we're going to secure these guys to each other up top with some of this. And some of this. And then we may even though I criticized this so much when it was done by the other guy, maybe we should just, well, there's some heat shrink on there, but nah, I'm going to leave it. I'm not going to do it. Can't do it. But yeah, we'll have some fun stuff coming on the channel. Finish up any outstanding projects I have. The high watt DR103 the Jawbreaker amp. What else do we have? The Sun Beta leads. Man, those are going to be fun. Got a Sun concert lead also. The red knob version. Got a trainer. Actually a tube trainer and a solid state guy. The, what is it? The TS100B. That's just totally messed up. That's going to be quite a repair. Okay, so what's going on here? Should maybe not connect this yet. Oh, and the Model T. Man, really need to get that up and running. But that one will be a little bit involved. Got to drill out the tube sockets. Okay. What's up here? I feel like this came out much easier than it's going back in. Is it because of those or that? Okay, just like that. Yeah, so we'll be jumping back into all of those outstanding projects. We'll be jumping into some amplifiers. We got a, oh, what's it called? The Roland JC 120, the chorus amp. That'll be coming in October. Oh, that's the wrong screw. How about this guy? And maybe one of those. Or was that the right screw? What's going on here? Doesn't seem to want to grab. Are some of these different? Seems like this guy's just spinning. Let's try something here. Is this the wrong screw, or is it... Oh yeah, look at that. Did I only have 3 of these when I came in? Well, I'll have to go to the hardware store, because I seem to have lost one of those guys, or never had it. Okay, so this board appears to be done. Let's get some of this back together. This guy can stay loose. This goes to the LEDs on the front. Let's see. And double check against the schematic for these, but this guy goes there. This one goes there. And this guy there. I wonder where the better... Might be better to put a screw down at the bottom there. Let's see. That's much more secure. Okay. There we go. What's next? This board. This board. Maybe these guys? If we're going full completionist mode. Also would kind of like to just pull this out. That's not stock, right? I don't think it is. I mean, I know this soldering isn't, but I don't think there was a switch on the front of the other guy. Yeah, let's see where we're at on time. This might be it for this video, and then we will continue this process on the next video. This guy needs a little bit more attention than the 5150, or I shouldn't even say that. It's just a little bit less straightforward. 5150 is nice because it's all just like one board and then the preamp board. And I do want to try to keep these videos to around an hour or so. I think we're getting close to that. So we're going to cut it there, but we'll be back next week with the follow-up to this, where we tackle these 2 boards and potentially these capacitors as well. See how far we can get, and take some acetone to Samuel Jackson's name. See if we can erase his stamp on this amp, literally and metaphorically. Yeah, thanks for watching. As always, going to be 1 video a week for the next couple weeks, and then really going to ramp up after that for getting the bench set up and everything. October and into November, things are going to be back to the ideally 3 videos a week, and cranking out some amps. Okay, yeah, as always, thank you for watching. Thank you for spending this time with me, and we'll see you on the next one.